I am the organizer of Startup Weekend for the last 2 events, and before that I was an attendee and got my own, started my own company out of Startup Weekend. So you can say I'm kind of a super enthusiast of Startup Weekend.
And I'm Jeff Martens. I am the co-founder and CEO of CPU Sage, which was a company born out of Startup Weekend. And I am one of the volunteer organizers working with Shashi, and I am also the facilitator of Portland Startup Weekend.
So tell me about Startup Weekend. What's the idea behind it?
So in a nutshell, Startup Weekend is a 54-hour exercise meant to give entrepreneurs an education in how to become an entrepreneur. You start on a Friday and you get to meet about 100 other entrepreneurs. You pitch ideas to each other. You figure out which ideas you want to work on, and then it's like a mad dash for 48 hours until Sunday evening, where during this dash you build a company. And then on Sunday you get to present to about, I don't know, what, 12, a panel of 12 or so judges and speakers to tell them what you built.
So we like to say it's pitch, build, launch. So Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
Where do you guys see yourselves fitting in the startup ecosystem?
So Startup Weekend, we really see ourselves as a very early stage event in the ecosystem here in Portland. So if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur and you still haven't fleshed out your idea yet, maybe you're not ready to quit your job, Startup Weekend is a great event to come, and in 54 hours you meet a whole lot of people, you meet other attendees, mentors and the speakers that can kind of help you flesh out your idea and decide, is this something we want to go and do full time? So with that said, we really kind of fit, before funding, before an accelerator or an incubator or a competition.
I've seen people with existing ideas come to Startup Weekend, and they've even got some work in on them, but it's a really good way of forming a team. So is it okay for me to come to Startup Weekend even if I've already got something kind of partially built?
I'm gonna take the extreme case. If you come in, you have a startup, but you're looking for founder matchmaking, we've had companies do that before. One of the things that we ask is that if you're a company, you're well formed, and you just need to do some matchmaking, do some building on your idea, that you come and you say so. That you tell us how far along you are. If you get people who are interested, you maybe not participate in the prize portion of the event, but we take entrepreneurs of all sorts.
Yeah, so Startup Weekend was really formed with the idea of entrepreneurs coming in with purely just ideas. So in my opinion, that's the most ideal person or team, is to come in with just an idea, but you've done no work on it. I think you'll get the most out of it. But as Shashi said, we accept entrepreneurs at various stages. This event is not about us; it's about the people that come to it. So if you have an idea and you've already done some work with it, that's perfectly okay. Come to the event and just let us know, and let other people know when you're building your team. What you have done, what you plan on doing, and from there it's really just about being fair to your team members.
What if you're like me and have no talent and no idea? Why should I show up to Startup Weekend?
Well, I think everybody has a talent. Maybe not everybody, not everyone has an idea, but everyone has a talent. And successful companies and successful Startup Weekend teams need a lot of different things. So they need someone that knows business development. They need someone that can write PHP. They may need legal or accounting or some other type of skill. I think everyone has something to offer. And what really makes Startup Weekend special is that it is such a diverse group of backgrounds. It's not just software engineers, and it's not just business developers. We tend to have a pretty even mix of about half engineers and half business people. So I encourage everyone to come.
So actually, to add to that, let me tell you why I came to Startup Weekend. Back in about March of 2010, I was kind of at a crossroads in my career, and I was neither technical nor not technical enough for my engineers, not business enough for my managers. And I was really wondering what it is I had to offer. And when I went to Startup Weekend, moving so fast, being part of such a fast-paced and talented team, I really learned how much I had to offer and how valuable the experiences that I brought to the table were, and how valuable the attitude that I brought to the table was. And I found it, I mean, it really lit a fire in me. And I've learned that you may not think that you have all the abilities that you do or all the talents that you do, but you'll be surprised at what you uncover when you're really put into that situation.
This doesn't happen without community support, and you guys kind of serve as a hub. What kind of support have you seen from Portland for Startup Weekend?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It takes more than just Shashi and I to make a Startup Weekend happen. So of course we have a team of organizers that we work with. There's I think 11 of us on the organizing team. But then one of the things that makes Startup Weekend great is we bring in entrepreneurs that have been there, done that, or they are there and they are doing it. So we have speakers Friday night, usually Saturday, and keynote speaker Sunday. We have mentors that are always around. At any given time during the day, there'll be at least 2 mentors that are there to give advice. And these are people that have started companies, or they're executives at companies. And oftentimes they're, the experts in their field, whether that be a technical field or legal or something like that. And then finally, we have a great group of sponsors that help make this event happen. So there's too many to list off right now, but we've had some wonderful sponsors, both startups that are spending their precious money to help make this event happen, but also some of the larger organizations in town and some of the larger employers in town.
Cool. I'm going to answer that in a slightly different way. We give entrepreneurs a home, and almost a school, if you will. So there's entrepreneurs on one side that have this idea or this fire in their gut, and then there's this ecosystem in Portland that's trying to build up all these great names that we know, like Urban Airship and Jain and Jive. We want to turn these people into these companies. So we show them, we give a place where they can get educated, get a team, turn an idea into an opportunity, and then they get unfettered access to these people who are sponsors, the Portland Seed Fund, the PIEs, the TIEs, the OENs, and so on and so forth. And they get to see each other and how they work. And then maybe, just maybe, these entrepreneurs can turn into actual companies that can go to these accelerators and become the next generation of startups.
So it becomes a cycle, right? So they, you can build your company into, what we see, like, the example of the Urban Airships or the Jives, and then when you get there, you can come back and provide that same support. And we're already seeing that. We actually have Startup Weekend companies that are now Startup Weekend financial sponsors for our upcoming event.
What's one of the most surprising things about Startup Weekend? What did you learn, or what did you see happen that really surprised or delighted you about the program?
So I don't know if it's surprising so much as maybe gratifying to see people who come in and are very shy or very hesitant to put themselves out there, and just to see what happens when they do put themselves out there, and then people love what they're doing or what they want to do, and they form a team around them, and see that person blossom from this shy person sitting in the corner to a leader of a team, to being, that CEO or that founder that that gets funded, or that takes that next step. It's the most exciting and gratifying thing I can see.
Yeah, for me, one of the things that surprised me is that Startup Weekend is not just about building companies. It's about inspiring and motivating and empowering people. And if companies come out of it, that's great. An example of that is that we get a whole array of different people at our events. So at our last event, we had a high school student, and that was awesome to see him there. Another person at our last event was somebody that worked as a full-time mom, and she said, you know what, I've been out of the workforce for so long, I needed to come and flex my creative muscles. And it was cool to see her there, and I don't know if she ever had any intent of starting a company or not. She came because there was something that she could get out of it. And that's what I love to see about it, is it's not just people saying, I need to get mine and I'm going to start a company. It's people that are coming there to learn, to be part of something, to contribute, and hey, if a company comes out of it, that's awesome. But if not, we've still had a great time, we've learned something, and we've met new people.
I want to add one more thing. And this is something that Jeff turned me on to. So Startup Weekend is a global company, or is a global organization, I should say. And we had the pleasure to see Startup Weekend happen in Egypt right after Hosni Mubarak was ousted. And one of the surprising things there was just to see the kind of fire that these guys have for entrepreneurship. In Cairo, for example, they had a startup. Their first Startup Weekend had 200 people and a 1,500 person waiting list. In Alexandria, it was a 300 person Startup Weekend with I think it was 3,000
person waiting list
on the waiting list, and just to see that they too, that entrepreneurship can transcend cultural bounds and result in the same kind of fire and the same kind of opportunities is amazing to me.
So we've talked about the attraction to entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs. Let's say I'm sitting somewhere that doesn't have a Startup Weekend. What do I do? How do I get involved? How do I get one started?
Yeah, so Startup Weekend is really an open source organization, so to speak. So if you want to put on a Startup Weekend headquarters in Seattle wants to hear from you. There's no boundaries to putting one on. You just got to let them know that you're interested in doing it. And of course, there's a, so to speak, application process. But they welcome new organizers and facilitators. There's a little bit of training. They provide all of the resources necessary to put on a great event. And I definitely encourage people to check it out. And if you're not ready to put one on, you should probably attend one, even if they're not in your town. And I would say every single weekend of the year, there's a Startup Weekend going on somewhere in the world, probably in the United States. So I think there's 9 events this coming up weekend in different locations around the world. For us here in Portland, there's been events in a couple different cities in Washington, Redmond, Olympia, Spokane, Washington's coming up. So you might be surprised that if you go to startupweekend.org, you could find that there's an event only a 2 or 3 hour drive from you.